I know I feature a lot of Destructoid and Kotaku articles, but like many of my gaming brethren, I've started growing tired of their antics. This isn't a video about my disdain for the growing degeneration of both these once proud and powerful gaming sites. This is going to be more a talk of how people who are considered mentally ill are starting to come out of the woodworks and say, hey, you cannot blame Lanza on us. You cannot start talking about, oh, it's not the guns. We need to legislate mentally ill people because they can and will, in their lifetime, kill people. This is no different than my talk about the conflation between pedophilia and child molester and that whole anti-male hysteria. This isn't about, the conflation of slut equals non-person, therefore we can shame them, take their jobs away, and basically ruin their life because we have the right to legislate morality. Isn't that right, Texas? Down below is an actual apt article. It's called I'm Mentally Ill. I love violent video games, and they've never made me feel like killing anyone. This is another statement. Again, this person can't be taken as an absolute, obviously. You have to have a sample size. He's a sample of a population, but he's a sample of a sample, and which place he fits into would have to be determined through a study, preferably a longitudinal study so we don't jump to conclusions, although I have no faith that the CDC and Congress in this case are going to come up with anything other than some sort of way to condemn violent games and media and completely transform the landscape of our pop culture, which I think is nothing short of disgusting and unnecessary. But what I also find unnecessary is mental illness shaming. I have had depression. I probably have some low-level depression now, but I had depression so bad I had to be medicated. I was cutting on myself. I was physically harming myself because I hated myself so much. I come from a father who had a anger management problem. And by some accounts, though I wasn't there and sometimes I got to be suspect of the sources, he was also violent and abusive. Though, frankly, he had a lot on his plate, my dad did. And to try to say that what happened to him was because he simply just became unhinged is not accurate. It's, in fact, disrespectful to the pain, the suffering, and everything that my dad went through. It's not to excuse what he did, maybe to my mom. It is to say, though, that in his case, it wasn't just simply, oh, you were in the war, you have post-traumatic stress disorder, you're a ticking time bomb, you were trained to kill, and you're unhinged, and you're a danger to yourself and everybody around you. No, it wasn't that at all. I could go into great detail over a lot of what drove my dad to do what he did, which was, by the way, not a violent act against somebody else, but he ended up killing himself with his service revolver in an alley. What a fitting end to a loyal and honorable serviceman, if ever I heard one. That's not even getting into the rise of, in this army, of obscene amounts of suicides tallying up from last year, and maybe I'll make a video on that before I leave tonight. Basically put, though, this person lays down what's going on with them, how society looks at them like they must have a hair trigger. They can't be a part of playing these games or absorbing this media because it's going to push them over that edge. It's going to force them into a position where they're going to lose track of reality and they're going to kill. Are there some people out there that are like that? Yes. And most of them don't have an actual diagnosed mental illness, I might add. But just because of the minority does not mean that we have the right to legislate, to suddenly distrust the majority, to legislate the majority, or to take away from pop culture one of its ways of expressing itself simply because we just don't understand it, or simply because we just don't agree with it. Until there is concrete proof, until there is an actual direct causal link that proves once and for all that we've been wrong for this last decade, and in fact games and media do create a normal person, a normal Joe or Jane, to pick up a weapon or a toy or something blunt around them and do despicable things to their fellow human beings. Until that time, you can't also then blame this and try to legislate this any more than we've legislated it. We tried this with comic books, and they legislated themselves. They muted themselves. They destroyed their artistic visions to please society, to make their works more sanitized. Because, oh no, there was a spike in juvenile violence, a spike in juvenile indecency. And you know what that did to the juvenile violence and decency? Nothing. Nothing at all. And yet, the people who were involved in this little charade will consider that the lulls that we've had, thanks to certain types of media, hint, hint, are due generationally to getting rid of those obscene comic books and the ways that they were portraying their obscenities. You don't get it. You absolutely don't get it. And if you're so quick to jump on the anti-mental illness bandwagon, heck, I had chemical imbalances. I had to take serotonin serotonin uptakes and inhibitors to help regulate my brain chemistry. People have a stigma. Oh, you had an unbalanced brain? You were probably a ticking time bomb. Oh, maybe you weren't, but your brethren were, because unbalanced chemicals leads to unbalanced people. I've had seasonal affectiveness disorder, though I think that's mostly gone away thanks to the work that I've done with myself and the things that I've done post-medication. I'm no longer on medication. Yet, when people meet me, when I've had my jobs, did any of them back away? Did any of them look at me strangely? Did any of them assume that I must be a serial killer on my off days? That I cross-dress and talk to my dead mother and make furniture out of my victims? No. But now we've got so many stigmas that we're quite literally piling stigmas on top of stigmas. And using that stigma sandwich, it's a stigma sandwich, to basically say who is worthy to be successful, who is worthy to be given chances in life, and who is not. Can you understand why a socially responsible message and channel like my own needs to exist now? Because there is no major contrasting bodies of people saying, I had problems, I'm better now, and if anyone, I hurt myself, not other people. And I liked games. I liked violent media. I still do. We don't have a lot of that. It's not the gun, it's the crazy who's wielding it. And that's not even accurate. If it wasn't for the bullet in the gun would be useless other than throwing or hitting. But if it was just the bullet but not the gun, you could make an improvised gun with a nail and a rubber band and a pipe, but we could go on with the microcosm of different causes that splinter off from the moment somebody decides to pick up a gun and point it at somebody and decides that they want to end that person's life or hurt them or both. But to then just deflect away from gun, to deflect away from bullet, to deflect away from everything that has anything to do with what happened with recent tragedies is to create fake problems and then create fake solutions to solve those non-existent problems, and then we pretend in this society that we've made progress, that we've made the world a safer place, that we've done something. We are doing nothing. Although Obama's executive orders are doing a little bit of something, although as I've talked about, one of those somethings is another one of these non-solution to a non-problem things. But the article is well worth reading. I would absolutely check it out. Link is down in the underbar.